Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I mean, Fuego here.
And this is another episode of the Nightmare on Elm Street comic book review. So this is a 6-issue series called Nightmares on Elm Street. And any of you guys watching already know that we're covering Nightmare this month because we are making a sequel to Wes Craven's New Nightmare as a show. So it's going to be good fun. We'll talk more about that at the end. But this is literally our review of these 6 very hard to get. Well, specifically this one right here.
Yeah, based on the price you told me, man,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my.
This is very hard to get your hands on. And if you do get a copy in your sights, it is going to cost you. So I invested to get this in order to do this review leading up to what we're doing. So
no trade paperback ever put together or anything
nope,
like that?
nope, never a
Dang.
trade paperback put together.
Sucks.
So we're gonna go through this issue by issue.
Is this
and
the same company that did those early Child's Play
Yep,
ones?
Innovation.
Yeah, Innovation, yeah.
Innovation did the Child's Play comics that we reviewed, and they also did the Nightmare comics. So I'm just gonna show you the covers real quick.
Yeah.
So this is cover number 1, Nightmares on Elm Street.
Yeah.
And then cover number 2, right chair.
That one might be.
I think that one's really good with Nancy there, obviously.
Might be my favorite.
Issue number 4, right
Decent.
there.
Yeah.
Throwback to the mirror scratching of part 6.
And also because of the fact that, yeah, it's a continuation of that story.
And, yep, number 4 here, also showing Jacob in his particular garb
The
from
Dream
part
Child.
5.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the best cover.
It's between that one and the second one, man, with Nancy on it.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I really like this one. This is all the characters, including characters. That's Jacob, that is Allison's best friend, that is Allison, and then that is the doctor from the 3rd Nightmare movie.
Yeah.
And then finally, issue 6, which is the one that is really hard to get a hold of. It is Freddy slicing through the map of the United States.
Yeah,
So,
it's strange looking Freddy a little bit.
so we're going to go through this. So, Fuego, the story of the first 2 is a little bit different than the story of the last 4.
Although the last 4 do carry on all of the plot points that are put into place in the
I feel
first
like
2.
they almost Alien 3'd the first 2 issues because the first 2 issues end, and then it's like, and then the 3rd issue picks up, and you're like,
6 years in the future.
yeah, 6 years in the future, you're like, whoa, what? And then they just sort of explain what happened. You're like, oh, so we're just gonna see the follow up in text, sort of. This is what happened for him. So. Anyway, that's what we're going to start with. So, the first 2 issues are actually mostly a sequel to Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors.
Exactly.
So, what happens in those first 2 issues, Fuego?
So there is a former college roommate of Nancy herself who starts having nightmares abruptly, and the timeline kind of correlates a little bit with. Well, it's shortly after our Nancy has died in Part 3, and sacrificed herself. Although with is it Kirsten or Kristen? I always forget. Kristen. Okay, I don't know. I've met my fair share of Kirstens, but
Kristen.
yeah. So Kristen is a major component of.
Just going to show you some of the artwork as we
well.
go along. Yep.
Who I always used to get, kind of confused with Alice for whatever reason, because it was almost they did the same like passing of the torch.
Well, she
3
passes her powers
and
on,
in
yeah.
4, exactly. But yeah, so you've got that former high school roommate of Nancy, and she has these nightmares, and she decides to go back to Ohio to what is it?
We see a real painterly style here, by the way.
In the first 2 issues, you have a definitely different look to it, and it is its own self-contained story in that fact of said former college roommate calling a few other friends, trying to track down Nancy, not having much success. Finally getting to the kind of bitchy doctor from Part 3, the older woman, and she lets her know, hey, Nancy is no longer with us. She was working on this case here at Fairview, I believe, and yes, but put into contact with the older doctor guy that Nancy's all sweet on in the 3rd one.
Real quick, just to give proper credit, the story is written by Andy Mangels, and the illustrations are by Tony Harris in this one, which Tony Harris is a massive illustrator currently nowadays, but it's not usually this painterly style, so I don't know that I actually picked up on that. And then lettered by Vicky. Wow, these are really hard credits to read. Look at, they're all right here, and they're all muddled by blood spurts and everything. So anyway, we got the 2 people that matter. So there you go. Go ahead, Fuego, continue as I show some of this artwork.
Yeah, so she gets involved with said doctor, and they are trying to get, I don't know, get some person, just sheer peace of mind, I guess, for her specifically. And I'm trying to remember her name. Was it Cynthia, or was it...
oh man, I actually have it in my notes, which are nowhere to be found.
Well, it's fine. Anyway, so a couple of these different former roommates of Nancy connect, and one in particular goes the extra mile to investigate, and then it ends up boiling into just a strange...
Sybil is her name.
Sybil, that's right. Okay.
Well, and they actually touch on...
Sybil, there's
because
Priscilla, there is...
Sybil and Priscilla and a few others, but they actually touch on what happened in Dream Warriors here, where they show what happened to Jennifer, what happened to Philip, what happened to all these characters. Really cool bit of illustration right there. Again, the painterly style really works for these first two issues big time.
It does make it pop, and it lends itself well. And I guess, without necessarily spoiling an extensive amount, Nancy does re-emerge in this storytelling, but in a otherworldly manner, almost as a counterbalance from the nightmare realm to the dream realm, and her being in the dream realm and having powers within that, and kind of balancing Freddy to a degree in a sort of limbo-ish, not quite afterlife sort of thing.
Yeah, let me move on to the second issue.
Yeah, that's where they really expand upon it properly. Yeah.
So what's really interesting about this, and what I really liked, is this series is truly a sequel to Part 3 and Part 5. The first two issues are the sequel to Part 3, and then the next 4 issues are the sequel to Part 5, taking place 6 years later. Yeah. Exactly. But that's what's interesting. So this part 2 starts off with Nancy saving Sybil and explaining that where she is a place called the Beautiful Dream. And if you're a big Nightmare fan, at the end of 3, when Nancy gets killed and stabbed by Freddy, Kristen comes up to her and cradles her and says, "I'm going to dream you into a beautiful dream forever and ever." And so that's the thing. Now Nancy resides. Nancy's human form is dead, but now Nancy resides in the beautiful dream, her soul. And now she's sort of the anti-Freddy. She is the purveyor of good dreams, whereas Freddy is the purveyor of bad dreams. And so the story is sort of Sybil trying to keep Freddy out of this little paradise that Nancy has, the beautiful dream that she's been living in the entire time.
Yeah, they can't quite infiltrate one another's dreams yet, but they worry Freddy is getting strong enough to be able to do so, even though they can't. And so, I mean, yeah, it's a worthy sequel as far as expanding upon the ideas and just still being able to bring Heather's character back in some context.
Well, and it brings back Dr. Neil too from Part 3 and their budding relationship, the love interest.
Yeah, and it's still there.
So it continues.
It is expanded upon.
And again, here's a bit of a page where you see Dr. Neil talking with Nancy and Sybil, and you see Nancy with her streak of white hair right there. So
yeah, which she had in 3, which happened in 1 originally. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that Sybil's nightmares that she is having make a correlation between Jack the Ripper and Freddy Krueger, and there is even what is allegedly Jack the Ripper's journal that they show at the very beginning of the first issue, where he's talking about, would they still recognize me if I jumped from body to body, and just all this different stuff. It's really trippy and weird, but in all of her nightmares, she is being chased by a guy she thinks is Jack the Ripper, who turns out to be Freddy.
And it actually also brings back Dr. Sims, the older female doctor.
Yeah, the one that I mentioned,
that was running the Institute. So Dr. Sims comes back as well. So it is a true sequel.
100%.
And the artwork is just really, really cool. Like, again, this painterly style is so interesting and so different. And some people it might not jive with, but I think it's just so different than all the other Freddy comic artwork that we have that I've read numerous times.
And
this is the first time I read these. This is the first time I read these, and we're risking it by pulling them out of the packages because they're not cheap, especially Part 6.
As you told me. Yeah.
But yeah, this one just kind of ends.
Of Part 2, it just ends, and you wonder, what is the fate of this character? And without spoiling stuff, it just
skips away.
Well, it skips away, but they do address it with one particular line.
Correct.
With regards to something about her husband who gets killed and what.
Not only that, but the fact that she's got she's eating for more than one. and that doesn't seem to matter.
That's what I was dancing around.
Yeah.
And they actually blame that particular thing on her death, and they also blame that in issue 3 for the fact that our doctor buddy who was down with Ms. Nancy in her younginness and whatnot. Yeah, they address that completely, and he is like in said coma by about halfway through, and I guess that's probably about the extent for telling things about him. But he does factor into the back 4 issues as well. So
issue number 3 starts off with Allison and young Jacob coming back into Springwood for the first time since Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. And Jacob is still relatively odd, but they're going back because Allison's father has passed away, and they're going to handle all of his stuff. When they do go to the town, they happen across this new character who is a short-haired blonde woman that takes a shining to Jacob, but obviously has weird things going up because she kind of sees him as this zombie-like figure almost.
Well, you find out as time goes by, she sees pretty much everybody as having that
no
particular appearance, like it's been all burned off, and you find out what that is all about story-wise.
But you can see the artwork change is tremendous here. It goes
drastic
from that painterly style to a much more traditional comic book style, but it's not bad. It's just different.
Yeah, which they did with a few different comic series you and I have reviewed recently, where it's like, okay, first 1, 2, 3 issues, if it's a 6 or an 8 or a 10 or whatever, or even a 4 sometimes. I mean, it happened with Bubba Hotep. It happened with I know Chucky at one particular point in one of those series that we reviewed. So that sort of turnover, it's part of the industry, unfortunately, and shows. I still dig this particular look, though.
It's a good look, and it's interesting because the story takes the characters back to the power plant from Part 2,
where you see the dogs with the faces.
Indeed, the dog with the face that she actually says down, or what is it, Wes?
Down something.
She says, "Hiya, Wes." So apparently, the name of the dogs with the man faces were Wes, and I didn't realize.
Well, and just the one thing without spoiling too much here is that in this 4-issue like separate half of this little limited run, it's self-contained obviously, but it jumps into a lot of different things, and
some really cool stuff.
Rad status artwork,
really cool artwork, and this is just issue 3 right now. So
well, I mean, besides Alice, you also have the reemergence of the character from those first 2. Who was also in 3, the Doctor.
Not only that, but look, in issue 3, you get Dan, the Dream Child's father, in both regular form and his totally alternate motorcycle maniac form. Yeah. And it's really cool stuff. I mean, I was so happy to finally read these, because it is such an easy extension of the Freddy movies that we know and love so much.
Well, we also get another appearance from Nancy's father, which is interesting as well. That's something to mention.
Showing that cover real quick.
But the backstory of this human that Freddy is using as like kind of a putz, kind of an Igor-like character, it's like, okay, there's certain things in the real world that Freddy can't do, so he has this henchwoman, so to speak, who is kind of in love with him, obsessed with him, wants him to give her power, and so
he kind of toys with her the whole time.
Yeah, he does the entire time. He's freaking her out, he's messing with her, but yet he sees that she is valuable as far as assistance goes, and this big ultimate scheme that he has to escape the dream world, which we're not going to tell you all about because that would be far too spoilery, obviously. If you want to spend the money to track this series
no one's going to spend the money, so I mean, you might as well just kind of go ahead. But look, see, Freddy comes after Dylan once again. But he doesn't come, or Jacob, sorry.
There's something on your mind.
Whoops. Obviously, since this is coming out, I'm obviously thinking about Dylan's New Nightmare. But here, there's this one spread page that has something from a lot of different Freddy movies in it.
Yeah, it's where he
so
first
it's his
reveals
lair.
To him the lair. Yeah.
Exactly. So you see the pram from Nightmare on Elm Street 5. You see the sheriff and his dead body here from Nightmare on Elm Street. And then you see the wheelchair here from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Yeah. It's full of little Easter eggs. And then, of course, Jacob sitting there and next to Freddy from Part 5.
And being tempted so heavily by Freddy for him to assist with his escape. If we're going to go into spoilers, I guess
might as well.
We'll go into spoilers.
These are not... If you really want to get all of these books, all 6 of these, it's going to cost you probably close to $250. So, I would not necessarily recommend that.
So let us
unless you
spoil
have
it
the
for you
excess.
then?
So let us spoil it for you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Fuego.
Well, so Jacob, after getting into this, this nightmare realm that Freddy has taken him into, he is being tempted at the possibility of being able, because he is glamored and kind of manipulated
Freddy actually
by
sits
Freddy.
in the wheelchair, lamenting his current situation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's just interesting, though, the way Freddy plays kind of almost like the temptation of Christ sort of bit. And he's like, hey, if you help me, I will let your father, who I am now going to allow you to spend a bunch of time with, who you miss and kind of remember and loved. And,
Well, and look, the
feel like
dream
an
door with the
emptiness
dream demons
about-
is in here
Yeah.
from part 6.
I do like some of the art, especially in these back issues, man. It's got a grimy,
It's cool.
like, nastiness to it. Yeah, the painted style was one thing, but this definitely being more comic book-y. Anyway, as we jump through and re-engage with none other than Nancy herself, still residing in that same just kind of protector role, but there's only so much that she can do for, is it Springwood? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, Springwood
It
is
is
the town.
Springwood. I kept thinking of it. Springwood, I was like Ohio earlier in the review. But yeah, Springwood with its lengthy history tied in with Fred Krueger, and with it almost is taken to a Derry, Maine sort of energy in the fact that Freddy has power over the entire town,
Right.
And he's trying to escape the confines of that town, and that's why in the 6th
I love
issue,
this last
the
issue,
cover
this
is
last
him
page.
trying to slash through the map because he wants Jacob, the dream child, to basically assist him in his escape from this nightmare realm. Almost like what happened in part 2, where he was able to possess the body of Jesse and be able to be in the real world,
Yep.
wreaking havoc and killing. And then that one guy's like, "It's okay, man. We don't mean you any harm. Do you want us to we're not gonna hurt you." I laughed so hard at that scene. Anyway.
Freddy, by the way, who is a new welcome addition to the set, in case you didn't see him.
Indeed. How could you miss?
So this is part
Yeah.
6, and
Which
this
is
is
what
the
I was
one that's
alluding
going to
to.
set you back.
Yeah.
If you're gonna want to track these down,
And that's
this is
the
an
one
expensive
that
issue.
really just goes into the plan that he has hatched for escape much more in depth.
Well,
And
again,
also,
you see Dan showing back up,
and it also
talking
furthers
to Jacob.
the
You know,
weird nightmare realm that Freddy throws Alice into, which I love. It goes full
The Alice in Wonderland,
It goes
yeah.
full Lewis Carroll, and damn, is it awesome!
Not
There
only
are
that, but
so many cool illustrated.
yeah,
bits in
every
this.
character from the caterpillar is the chick with glasses that gets her soul sucked from Freddy. Want to suck face? And then obviously Tweedledee and Tweedledum is the girl that gets overstuffed from part 5.
Yeah.
So like everyone that plays a character in
They're
this new
all
Wonderland, they're all
killed
from the movies.
conquests, kind of. Yeah, it's cool.
And it gets a little bit crazy,
Well, we
but
do
this
have
is also
we
the
have
nice thing.
We have the return of the Dream
The
Warriors.
return of the Dream Warriors, which actually technically happens in the end of the last issue,
Yeah.
but all the Dream Warriors come back, including Philip, who's got his own like superhero thing now as the puppet man kind
He
of
has
thing.
like one line in it, but
Yeah, he does. He
it's
doesn't
okay.
really say a
He doesn't
whole
have
bunch.
much to do.
But here's what I really liked about this,
Yeah.
and this is where it gets utterly crazy, is that because they're in the Alice in Wonderland world,
Oh, that's right. He gets to be
Freddy
the
actually turns
Jabberwocky.
into the Jabberwocky, Jabber Freddy.
the Freddy Walker.
And like that, like just happens kind of really quickly, and I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of ended fast.
No.
And then he's back to being Freddy pretty quickly. But when it comes down to the final confrontation, once again, much like It Chapter 2, he
Yeah,
actually
he's
does
back, he
become
reverts
the
back to
big Jabberwocky Freddy, and they have to fight a giant dragon Freddy at the
big
end of the movie.
The big intimidating form of
It's
sorts.
so
And
awesome.
I mean, it's like the are the Dream Warriors still around by then? I was trying to
A
remember
little,
because,
yeah, they
you know,
come in and help
they
out.
come
yeah.
in and help out to a degree, but it's essentially her, and then Jacob really is the final like linchpin, so to speak. Or
Yeah, I don't want to
whatever,
show these
you know,
last
like
few
chink in the
pages because
armor,
it shows
they-
the end, but
Yeah, it does show. Well, you know, once again, if you
it's
wanna,
a legitimate
if you wanna-
sequel, you
it's-
guys.
and it expands upon the world and the mythology surprisingly well. I have to admit, we have read some kind of horror comics, and yet these in particular are quite rad status. I must admit,
I'm glad I invested in these.
and they're totally in canon too. Surprisingly,
totally in canon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't gotten your hands on these, and you can, I highly recommend it. There's a few you can get for like $30 on eBay, but that 6th issue is the one that's going to be
That's
hard
the
to get your
elusive
hands
one.
on.
Probably because it was like waning down as the
Yeah,
as the run
and they
went on.
canceled it right
Yeah,
afterwards.
and well, it was also when Freddy's Dead was about to come out. Like this comic was starting to be released when they went into that marketing push campaign for the Final Friday, and that was not very well received, and there was worry that people had Freddy fatigue at that point, so maybe that hindered this comic as well. And why it's so damn expensive to find that 6th issue, who knows? But that's me theorizing.
Yeah, so you guys, this was a really fun comic to read, and if you didn't know, part of why we're covering all the Nightmare books is because we are going to be, we are currently launched, well, the campaign is launched right now for Dylan's New Nightmare. It is a sequel to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It is a fan film. It is produced by Vincent DeSanti of Never Hike Alone, as well as Renee Rivas, who did the Spirit of Haddonfield. And this is our brand new glove, and the campaign is live right now. The link is in the description box. You can go and get yourself a Blu-ray, get yourself a VHS, get yourself a poster, and I just cut myself.
VHS for me.
That
shows the reality of this.
Yeah, lots of really cool stuff. So go and check it out. Support the campaign if you want, and we greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, which, by the way, there's going to be probably 5, 6, maybe even 7 or 8 if you include Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash series. Total Nightmare on Elm Street reviews.
Which is also in canon.
Those are going to be coming soon, so stay tuned. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, click that like button and subscribe if you want to make sure you don't miss any other Nightmare videos like this. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, I've been Jaime.
And remember, stay scared.